My name is Vanessa Santa Cruz, and I'm 38 years old. If someone had told me years ago that love could turn into a cage you built with your own hands, I would have laughed. Back then, I thought good intentions were enough, that if you gave your heart, your time, your sweat, your everything, the people you loved would see it, appreciate it, honor it. I was wrong. And this is how I learned that loving the wrong people can drain the life out of you. I met Daniel on a rainy Thursday afternoon. He was standing outside a local daycare, soaked through, holding a tiny girl wrapped in a polka dot blanket. She was barely able to walk, clinging to him like he was the last safe place on earth. His son, Ben, was 4. A whirlwind of messy curls and plastic toy cars, he pushed through puddles like he was racing the world. Daniel looked exhausted, not in the dramatic, movie kind way, but in the way a person looks when life has chewed on them too long. His wife, a military officer, had died in action. A hero. But heroes don't come home. He was doing everything alone. And I saw them. Not the grief, not the chaos, but the need for warmth, for stability, for someone to help stitch together the pieces of a broken family. I didn't save them. I simply walked into their storm and offered an umbrella. Daniel and I grew close fast. It wasn't some whirlwind romance. It was quieter, built on late-night conversations, shared responsibilities, and the kind of trust that forms only when two people are desperately trying to stay afloat. When we married, I became stepmother to 2 kids who had already lost so much. Ben called me Mom first. Ella followed soon after. She couldn't even pronounce the word properly, but she'd reach for me, tugging on my shirt, her tiny voice whispering, "Ma?" Those moments, they rewired my heart. For years, I did what I believed a mother should do. I worked full-time, but I never missed a school event. I was in the front row of every recital, cheering until my throat hurt. I packed lunches, replaced backpacks, kissed scraped knees, organized birthday parties with dinosaur cakes and glitter balloons, planned vacations that left them starry-eyed. I loved them, not because they were Daniel's kids, but because somewhere along the way they became mine, my family, my purpose. I didn't even care that I wasn't their biological mother. They called me Mom. They looked to me when they felt scared or excited or lost. And Daniel, he looked at me like I was the best thing that had ever happened to his family. At least that's what I thought. It started small. These things always do. Ben turned 17, that dangerous age where teenagers believe the world answers to them. Suddenly, schoolwork didn't matter. Curfews were ridiculous. My reminders became background noise. One day he left muddy shoes on the rug after I'd cleaned the living room. "Ben, please clean that up." He didn't even glance back. "Why? You're just going to do it anyway." I laughed it off. Teens, right? Hormones, attitude, growing pains. Except Ella, sweet Ella, my quiet shadow. She started copying him. Eye rolls, half-hearted responses, slamming her bedroom door when she didn't get her way. And Daniel, he became soft with them. Too soft. Anytime they mouthed off or broke a rule, I waited for him to intervene, to back me up. He didn't. He'd sigh, pretend to scroll his phone, or say, "Let it go, Vanessa, they're kids." But disrespect is a seed. Ignore it long enough, and it grows teeth. The moment everything splintered is burned into my memory. Ben came home well past midnight. No call, no message, just sauntered in like he owned the house. I wasn't even angry. I was worried. "Ben, where were you? You didn't answer any of our messages." He shrugged. "Relax, Vanessa. I'm not a little kid." "Living under this roof means respecting a few basic rules," I said calmly. He turned slowly, looked me dead in the eyes, and said, "You're not my real mom. Stop pretending like you get to tell me what to do." My breath caught. It felt like my ribs hollowed out. Ella stepped beside him, crossing her arms. "Yeah," she said quietly. "You're just some woman Dad married." I looked at Daniel, waiting, begging silently for him to stand up, to correct them, to defend me. He didn't. He just stood there, no anger, no shock, no disappointment, nothing. A silence that hurt more than the words. And in that moment, something inside me cracked. Years of love, years of sacrifice, years of pouring myself into a family that wasn't even mine by blood. And suddenly I was just nothing. But it didn't stop there. A few days later, Ella left a huge mess in the kitchen. Dishes piled high, counters sticky with juice, crumbs everywhere. "Ella, clean this up," I said gently. She didn't move. She just looked at me and said, "Why don't you do it? It's your house, isn't it?" Before I could respond, Ben chimed in. Why are you always trying to boss us around? You're not even our real mom. I turned to Daniel. It was my last fragile hope. But all he said was, They have a point, Vanessa. As if my heart wasn't already breaking, he added, casually, dismissively, maybe stop acting like you own them. He didn't even look at me when he said it. That was the moment I felt something inside me turn cold. That was the moment I realized I was alone in a family I helped build from scratch. That was the moment I knew this home, this life, this love, was slipping right through my fingers. And for the first time in years, I let myself wonder, what happens to a mother when her family decides she isn't one anymore? I wish I could say I fought harder, that I held on to the version of my family I'd built in my mind, the warm kitchen, the laughter, the trust. But the truth is, something inside me shut down. When a person keeps handing you knives, you eventually stop offering your hands. In the days after Daniel and the kids made it painfully clear where I stood, I moved quietly. Not angrily, not dramatically. Quietly, like someone walking through a house filled with broken glass. I didn't yell, I didn't argue, I simply stopped. No more rides to school, no more last-minute lunch money, no more staying up late to help with homework, no more picking up after them, no more emotional labor. If they wanted independence so badly, I'd let them taste it. At first, they thought it was a joke. Ben laughed the morning he missed the school bus, assuming I'd swoop in with car keys in hand. When he realized I wasn't moving, his smirk fell. Well, are you going to take me or not? No, I said without looking up from my coffee. Ella blinked in disbelief when I didn't pack her lunch. Daniel rolled his eyes when I didn't pick up his dry cleaning. They muttered things under their breath. Selfish, dramatic, bitter. Let them talk. People who take you for granted always call your boundaries attitude. But the real shift came when the money dried up. Daniel had always talked a big game about being the sole provider. He wasn't. Our lives, the comfortable house, the vacations, the extras, were built on both our incomes. Without my contribution, the cracks appeared fast. First, the weekend shopping trips shrank. Then the fast food runs disappeared. Then the new clothes stopped. And then Daniel's tone began to change. Irritation replacing arrogance. One Saturday morning, Ella stomped into the living room, holding her broken phone. Dad, can I have money for a new one? Mine died. Daniel winced. Not right now, Ellie. Things are tight. She stared at him like he'd just spoken an alien language. Ben rolled his eyes. Both of them looked toward me, waiting. Ask your father, I said, sipping my tea. That's the thing about entitlement. It crumbles the moment it faces reality. Daniel waited 3 weeks before confronting me. I came home from work one evening to find him pacing in the kitchen, arms crossed, jaw tight. You're being a damn child, Vanessa. I set my keys down quietly. Am I? What kind of woman punishes her own family just because her feelings are hurt? You're neglecting your responsibilities. Responsibilities, not love, not partnership, not respect. Just obligations. I have one question, I said. Why do you never defend me? Why do you let them talk to me like I'm nothing? His face twisted, not with shame or regret, but annoyance. And then he said the sentence that extinguished the last ember of hope in me. Because I agree with them. You were never really their mother. I felt my stomach drop. He kept going, digging the knife deeper. I raised them alone before you, and I can do it again. Stop acting like you're irreplaceable. Behind him, in the hallway, stood Ben and Ella, arms crossed, smirks on their faces, proud of him, united in their cruelty. That was the moment I realized something unshakable. I was not a partner. I was not a mother. I was not loved. I was a convenience, a wallet, a caretaker, a placeholder. And their lives were about to show them what happened when a placeholder stepped out of the frame. That very night, the hostility escalated. Things went missing. Papers, files, personal items. My car was scratched across the entire driver's side, so deep the paint was gouged. I wanted to believe, desperately, that it wasn't them. Until one night I found my closet raided, clothes shredded, shoes cut, drawers dumped out. I checked the security cameras with shaking hands. And there they were, Ben and Ella, laughing as they tore through my things like it was a game, like destroying me was entertainment. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I recorded. I saved. I documented. Photos, videos, screenshots, every threat, every message, every incident. I became my own witness. Behind the scenes, I met with a lawyer. Her expression tightened as I laid out the evidence. The threats, the vandalism, the hostile environment. You have a very strong case, she said. You can file for divorce and request protective measures. I don't want to hurt them, I whispered, though I wasn't sure if that was still true. "You're not hurting them," she said gently. "You're protecting yourself." We filed reports, police documentation, legal declarations, financial records secured, accounts separated, assets protected. All the while I moved quietly, the stillness before a storm. And then, when everything was ready, I left an envelope on the kitchen counter. Before dawn, before they woke, before any of them could twist this into something it wasn't. Inside, divorce papers, evidence packets, police reports, statements, financial documents. By the time they discovered it, I was gone. The calls started first. Daniel's voice, a blend of rage and panic. "You're overreacting, Vanessa. You're breaking this family apart. You're ruining everything. How dare you do this without talking to me?" And then the frantic messages after he reached the attachments. "What is all this? You filed a police report? Are you insane? This is your family." But I didn't answer. I had given them all the words I had. Now, silence was the only language left. I didn't cry when I left. People assume the moment you walk away from a broken marriage, the dam bursts and the grief swallows you whole. But when someone has been crushing your spirit slowly, deliberately, painfully, the tears dry long before the exit. I drove away with only the things I truly cared about. A few boxes, my documents, some clothes that hadn't been destroyed. The rest, the memories, the furniture, the ghost of who I tried to be, stayed behind. For the first time in years, my chest felt light. Not happy, not relieved, just unchained. The days that followed were loud with noise from Daniel and the kids. Rage, then blame, then insults, then entitlement, then bargaining. His messages came in storms. "You abandoned us. A real mother wouldn't walk away. How could you do this after everything I've done? You're a coward." The hypocrisy would have been funny if it wasn't so pathetic. Then came the guilt trips. "The kids are crying. They're hurting because of you." But I had video proof of them shredding my clothes while laughing. It was hard to feel manipulated by crocodile tears. I didn't reply, not once. Silence is the one thing abusers truly fear. It forces them to hear their own voice. Daniel tried his next tactic, desperation. "Let's talk. We can fix this. You're overreacting. We were just stressed." "Please, Vanessa, don't do this." But desperation without accountability is just another form of control. And besides, the courts already had everything. The accounts were separated. The house was legally mine. My income had covered most of its purchase and upkeep, and the lawyer ensured Daniel couldn't touch it. The attached evidence preemptively blocked any attempt he might make to spin a false narrative. The life they'd built on my back was collapsing, and they knew it. Weeks passed, then months, and slowly, inevitably, the messages changed. First from Daniel. "I can't afford the mortgage alone. We had to cancel Ella's art classes. She's upset. Ben got in trouble at school. They called me instead of you. This is getting harder than I expected." The shift was subtle at first. Pride crumbling, frustration tightening, exhaustion setting in. But then came the messages from the kids. At first, casual. "Hey, can we talk? It's important." I ignored them. Then, softer. "I know you probably hate us. Things aren't good here." Still, I didn't respond. Then Ella. "I hope you're okay. I really do." My fingers hovered over the screen that time. For a split second, I felt the familiar ache, the mother role instinct I'd built over years. But then I remembered her eyes when she told me, "Why don't you do it? It's your house." Her voice when she said, "You're just some woman Dad married." Her laughter while slashing through my belongings. So I put my phone down. You can only be stabbed so many times before you stop walking toward the knife. The messages kept coming. Regret seeped through each one. "Ben, look, we were out of line. I get that now. I shouldn't have said what I said. I thought things would be the same without you. They're not." Ella. "Mom." She corrected herself, rewrote the word. "Vanessa, I miss how things used to be. I didn't know Dad would get so stressed. We didn't know it was you holding everything together." And finally, "I miss you." A simple sentence, the kind that would have cracked me before. Now, it was just data in a message thread. Painful, yes, but not persuasive. They weren't sorry for what they did. They were sorry for what they lost. There's a difference. Meanwhile, I began to rebuild. I reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years, took weekend trips, decorated a small apartment that reflected me, not the family I'd been trying to please, picked up hobbies I'd sacrificed, pottery, yoga, swimming at sunrise. I slept through the night without hearing slammed doors or whispered insults through the walls. The silence wasn't lonely. It was peaceful. And peace is addictive. I realized something I should have known long ago. Love without respect is just emotional labor disguised as devotion, and no amount of effort can fix people determined to stay broken. One evening, months after the divorce finalized, I went for a walk through the city. The sky was purple, fading into gold. The world felt big again, full of possibilities instead of obligations. I stopped on a bridge overlooking the river. For a moment, I let myself think of Ben and Ella, the version of them I raised, not the version that pushed me out. Then I whispered to the water below, I loved you, but I love myself more. And with that, I turned away, not bitter, not angry. Just done. Completely, finally, beautifully done.